We have a around New York next month. This one we're going clockwise instead of counterclockwise.
Around Manhattan. That's
around Manhattan. Yeah, so the counterclockwise is you get better currents when we're going the other way. And then we're doing a marathon swim in DC in the Potomac.
It's about 20 miles from Chain Bridge to Mount Vernon. So we're doing that DC marathon swim.
Welcome to Social Kick. I'm Brian Lundquist. We've got Dr. John Mullen, and coming fresh off or a few days off of an epic adventure. I don't know how you guys were able to hang out as brothers for that long, that close, but what a life achievement. John and Joe Zemaitis, thanks for joining us, the Swim Brothers. Welcome to Social Kick.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Well, guys, wow. I'll give a quick recap and then we'll get into the details, but you guys embarked on quite an event to swim across the country. I think a lot of us as swimmers in the U.S. grew up with a swim-a-thon, and you guys took on the ultimate swim-a-thon with swimming a 10K in every state across the U.S. And the goal was to do it in 30 days, and you finished in 25 days. Unbelievable achievement, fresh off of the experience together with a clean shave after the rally beards. John and Joe, what's your reaction? Just how did it go, and what are your initial thoughts post swim?
Well, I think the initial thought is just kind of this combination of relief and disbelief. I mean, it was a great adventure. It was really exciting and something that we planned for about 3 years to just kind of all come together and, turn out with as much that could have gone wrong that didn't. And we got through it all was kind of a miracle in itself. So it was kind of a relief to be done. And just also kind of disbelief to look back and be like, wow, that's something that actually happened.
Yeah, it was definitely a good experience. The weather, being able to get it done in the 25 days, it was mostly, I think, due to the weather. We expected, on the, East Coast and in the South to have more weather issues than we did. I think we only had one swim got stopped in the middle because of lightning. And then I think we had two swims that were late starts because of weather, but other than that, it went really, really well. So
yeah, you mentioned planning for 3 years, or that's when maybe the idea came about. Could you talk more about which one of you came up with the thought, how you guys pinged it off each other, and maybe how it evolved over that time to come into fruition?
Okay, yeah, I'll answer that. John and I have very different skill sets when it comes to the swimming. I'm more the planner, and he's more the one that can really make it happen. He's the one that can acquire the boat and build the boat and do like a lot of those kind of logistics. And when it was really kind of pre-pandemic that the seed got planted, and then when the pandemic was really hit and we were kind of just stuck, and all the plans of swims we did kind of fell apart, we had a chance to really say, okay, if we could do anything, what would it be? And that's when, the logistics were even harder than people think, because it wasn't just swimming a 10K. Like, you can't go find a pool. This was all open water, and it was open water all according to the Marathon Swim Federation guidelines, because these are all going to be ratified by MSF, and their documentation procedures are pretty strict. So it has to be a 10K along a natural route that's repeatable. So you can't use a buoy. You can't say, oh, my GPS says I swam out 3 miles and turn around and come back. So you have to either go from like a boat ramp to another boat ramp one way, or you have to like turn around an island or a bridge or some natural route so people can take the documentation we provide and exactly replicate our swim if they wanted to. So we're really transparent of the types of swims we were doing and the routes, but it's actually way harder than people think it was, because there's not a lot of lakes that are big enough to do this kind of swim in. And as we learned as we were going, I didn't know there were so many private docks in the country, right? Like on Google Earth, you can't tell that this is
Like,
not a public dock, Like we roll in our RV and people are like, what are you doing? Get out of here. So
get off my yard.
Yeah, get off my lawn. Exactly. So we had to, again, it was this combination of like an intricate, detailed plan, and then the ability to get there and redraw a route in 15 minutes that met all the specifications, because we can't use this dock, or this dock is already closed for the day, or just whatever. I mean, it was a lot of have the plan, but then have the ability to adapt and adjust as we go.
Now, did you guys have a local crew in each spot? It seemed like you had a boat and a crew that was with you in most of these cases. What was that like?
No, so we pretty much, well, we had a crew of 3 that basically traveled with us. So we pretty much every, and we had a large inflatable boat with a 5 horsepower motor that we had we built a rack for the back of the RV that we would deflate, roll up, put on the back of the RV, get to the next one, reinflate it, put the motor on, so that part took about, probably 20 minutes to each time to set up and take down each way.
That brings a whole new meaning to BYOB. Well, you can bring your own boat.
Yeah. So, so that was the whole, that was kind of a process, and it was, again, finding places that, like, we were in New Hampshire, and there was, like, beautiful, like, beach with, like, parking, and it was like a public beach, but apparently it's a public beach only to the residents. So we pull up there at, like, I think we were there at like 6 o'clock in the morning. We start setting up, and, like, nobody's there. And then this older guy comes out and is like, you have to get out of here. It's, private beach, and, for the residents only. And so we ended up having to go across the street, thankfully, to, there was a boatyard, that had been there since, I think, 1941 or something like that. And those people are like, oh yeah, come on, put your boat in here. It's great. So it was, so that lots of challenges like that, and then obviously there was a couple of public beaches or private places that we went that people were gracious. We explained what we're doing, and people are like, oh yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Because in Montana, we were having trouble finding a place to get out, and one of our crew, our guy that was with the RV, was just driving down, like, a private road, and was like, and there was a big, huge family gathering, and he's like, hey, is it possible that these guys can get out here? Yeah, so they're like, oh yeah, that's great. And that, they took us out, they helped us get our boat out and everything, and they had just finished up dinner, and they're like, oh, here's plates of food. And,
oh, nice.
So meeting people from all across the country was awesome. And as far as how the crew worked, we had some people that we knew in each location that would help out for the day, but we had a crew of 3 that each came out for a week. So we kind of had this plan. I figured, a week was a good amount of time that they could learn it, but not get so sick of us or so tired that they couldn't continue. But we would have 2 people on the boat at all times, one to pilot the boat, and then one that would act as the Marathon Swim Federation observer that keeps a detailed log of the swim and makes sure all the rules are followed. And then we would have a 3rd person back with the RV because we didn't always start and finish at the same place. So they'd reposition the RV, or maybe they'd go out and get food, or they'd, it was this team of 3 that we switched out each week so that, they could, it's hard enough to ask people to give up a week to come along on your adventure. 3 weeks would have been a bridge too far. So it actually worked out really well. We had a great crew, and it was just a lot of fun hanging out with people, from our past that we reconnected with, old coaches, former swimmers of mine that I've coached, and just longtime friends. So it was that really added to the experience.
Yeah, more into the logistics. I know when I try to do some open water swim, especially in an area I don't know, I try to start looking up, all right, where's a body of water? Then it's like, okay, can you actually swim in this? Is there somewhere to get in? All these things. So obviously you mentioned a lot of the logistical stuff like on site when you got there with the docking, but how about even back into the planning process of figuring out, okay, this looks like a possible place. How can we figure out what the water's like, and is this doable?
Yeah, so what I did when I started planning is, first of all, I'm looking for bodies of water, ideally closer to state borders, so we're, trying to minimize the travel, that are big enough to be able to do the swim.
Sure.
And then, you Google, can you swim in whatever body of water? I remember doing one in Florida. Can I swim in this lake? And they're like, nope, alligators. So I was like, okay, I'll scratch that one off. I think we'll drive further along to the coast. I'm good with that extra drive to not hit that convenient lake with gators in it. And then, you just pretty much all that information was there, with a quick Google search. Some of them were saying, no, you can't swim in the reservoirs in Massachusetts, but you can in Colorado, so you just Google, can you swim in the whatever reservoir? And it'll tell you right away. So it was finding, again, like finding the bodies of water that would work for a swim that are big enough to plan the kind of route we needed. And then it was like a connect the dots puzzle about how to put the travel route together and then plan out what we were going to do each day.
Did you have any instances where the plan just totally fell apart, where you showed up to a place and the body of water, you couldn't swim in it? It's just like you had to scrap it for the day. Somebody got sick or hurt. Like what was the worst?
Well, the worst was our first chance at Colorado. John, why don't you tell them about that?
Yeah. So what was the?
It was the John Martin's Reservoir in Colorado. So initially we were going to go to Horsetooth Reservoir, which has a pretty famous open water swim. And then I got creative and thought, wait, if we did this other reservoir that looks great on Google Earth, we can cut off like 4 hours of drive time and save, maybe be able to finish half a day early. We were right at the end here. So we rolled into John Martin's Reservoir about 10 o'clock at night to do a night swim.
Yeah. So we, like Jeff said, we rolled in at night, so it's dark. So we're putting the boat together. We get in and we're swimming. We swum for probably an hour and a half, and we're looking for these islands, and we can't find these islands because the reservoir was too low, and so these islands aren't islands anymore. And then we're like, okay, we're in the water. We're talking to our crew, like, okay, what other landmark can we go around that's gonna work for these routes? And they're like, well, there's a railroad bridge but it's like, it would end up being like an 8-mile swim total. And we're like, well, kind of at this point we're in the middle of this, we just need to get it done. And so we start going towards this bridge, and then the water starts getting really shallow, and then really shallow, and then really, really shallow. And it's probably a foot of mud, and then the boat just stops in the mud because it's so shallow. And so we stand up, and it's knee deep in mud, and we're like, all right, well, we'll try to maybe this is just a low spot that we can't really see. We'll try to walk. And so needless to say, we end up walking, and we end up getting past your knee deep in mud. And then we're like, yeah, this isn't going to work. And we probably gone it's hard to tell, but we probably gone 200 or 300 yards. And now you got to track back in the mud to the boat. It was a complete and total disaster, in the middle of it's by this time it's 1 o'clock in the morning, you're just covered in mud. And we end up finally making it back to the boat, and then getting back to water where we could use the boat again. And then it was, okay, now we have to redo the plan, refigure out Colorado. Although it was kind of a little bit of a blessing in disguise, because we weren't necessarily looking at lake level, but, because we were, just in the south and back east where it's, water shortage isn't an issue. And now we're in the, the Southwest where, reservoirs are low. And, so then our New Mexico swim, we lake level, and they're basically it's empty.
Well, and it's one of those where you read about the water shortage in the West and you hear about it. Living in Arizona, we hear about this, but I was when you see it, you're like, oh my gosh, this reservoir that had 10 miles of water, just huge, is nothing. And like John was saying, we're slogging through this mud. And I mean, I felt like I was in a Vietnam War movie, going through these chest deep reeds. And I'm thinking that, we're still in the water, water up to our ankles, knees, thinking there's going to be water on this other side. And finally you get out, and we had a full moon, right? So you could kind of see, got these wolves howling in the background.
I forgot about that.
We're stuck out here. I was thinking, I'm going to die out here. We finally get back to the boat, and it was like the Twilight Zone. These fish are jumping all around us as we're going back. One of the fish lands in the boat and is flopping around. And I'm like,
dinner.
And again, there's nobody within miles of us. This place is deserted. You feel at once like you're the only person on earth, but also you're going to die out here and be stuck in the mud. And it was, and that was the frustrating thing is, 3 hours into this, we're thinking this swim's not going to count. Like, I want to just snap my fingers and be back in the RV and move on to the next one. But, it was a slog through the mud to get back there. But, again, it was one of those things that was only a week or so ago that wanted to make you tell your hair out at the time, but makes for a good story now.
Yeah. I mean, that was swim 47. So we were getting, we were getting really close to the end, and you're just like, oh my gosh. And all of them have gone so well to that point.
Is there a time, during this whole experience where, I think there's a real thing about the gravitational pull of the finish line. So maybe toward the end, you're going, okay, we're in it and we're accelerating and we're going. But I mean, there had to have been moments too where you guys are questioning what in the hell you're doing and at odds with each other. Were you always on the same page? And did you have some low moments where you're going, maybe Joe wants to go and push on and get to this next destination, and John, you're like, not happening today. I'm not into it.
I mean, it not necessarily like, where Joe wanted to go or I wanted to go, and we're like, no, let's wait. I had some, I guess lower moments on it seemed to get from like maybe like 18, you swim 18 to like over the hump to swim number 25 seemed to take a long time. Like it seemed like we would never get there. Kind of once we did that, and then we changed out the crew to the last crew, and we had 19 swims less. Once we got that last crew, the swims seemed to like just drop like flies. I mean, they seemed to like just, boom, boom, boom. So that, I mean, for me, it was like kind of like trying to get to that halfway point, seemed like, a slog. Like, are we actually going to get there?
I'll kind of go the other direction with that. I think my low point, I can pinpoint it because we had done 3 swims the day before. We were started a swim at 4:30 in the morning in Rhode Island, then a midday swim in Massachusetts, and then finished up in the dark in Connecticut. And then we drove overnight, and I don't remember. I was sleeping pretty well on this trip in an RV because when you're tired enough, you can sleep anywhere. But I don't remember what I was dreaming or where I thought I was. But I didn't think I was in a parking lot in New Jersey when I woke up ready to do swim number 27. And I was like, oh, we got 24 more of these left. So, I mean, that was to me one of the low points of like, man, we're barely halfway. But for me, every time we got back in the water, I felt better. I mean, it was always such a relief to start a swim, just to be able to have all the logistics of it done and to be in the water. And at least you're like, okay, now I can just swim for the next 3 hours. That was a big moment of relief every swim. And then the second moment of relief after every swim was like when we were in the RV driving away, right? Everything packed up and ready to move on to the next place.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. There were a lot of mornings when we woke up where it was like where you wake up for a morning practice and you're like, oh my God, I don't want to get out of bed. But once you get, like morning practice, once you get in the water and you're moving, like, you're like, okay, yeah, it's not, I'm glad I got up, because a lot of time, I mean, a lot of these swims, especially towards the end, it was basically swim, get in the RV, go to the next swim, and you were getting 3 to 4 hours between swims, and you're just basically eating and sleeping. So it was, but yeah, I mean, it was definitely a challenge on some of those.
Yeah, to follow up on that, like you said, the frequency of the swims, obviously the volume of the swims was a lot for, a club swimmer or whoever. And you guys have a great swimming background in college and things like that. But what type of training were you guys doing in preparation leading up to it?
I train a lot. I was probably getting in about 50,000 a week since January. We've been at this for a number of years, so it's just kind of that cumulative training.
Yeah.
Some of the swims we've done. I mean, we've swum the English Channel and we swum Catalina and Manhattan. We've swum together through Loch Ness and the North Channel across Monterey Bay. Done 10 different Hawaii Channel swims. swum the Strait of Gibraltar. I mean, that, just a small sampling of what we've done. So feel like we're always kind of in shape for it. But for me, it was since the beginning of the year, trying to hit 100 miles a month in the water was kind of that round number I wanted in my head. And I think back to where we were swimming in high school, and that's why I thought, I'm like, man, we can do this. I mean, 10,000 in the morning, 10,000 at night. When we were swimming distance in the 90s, we were swimming on Tuesday. I mean, that was like just a normal day. So it was just stringing a bunch of those together. So with my training, I try to swim about 8 to 10,000, 5 to 6 days a week, and I did like 95% of my training pulling with paddles. First, because I like doing that, and second, you don't kick a lot when you're swimming marathon, and just that you built it up for years to be able to use paddles that much, and I felt that really helped me with shoulder strength and stability, and made swimming without them for 3 hours seem easy after I've hammered for 2 hours a day with them on. So John can talk to you about his training plan.
Yeah. So mine was, I'd say pretty much the opposite of Joe's. I probably got maybe about 10,000 a weekend for the like 6 to 8 weeks leading up to it.
Wow.
But that's kind of par for the course on all of the open water swims that we've done. Is I really don't train for them, like swimming wise, and I'll just get in and knock them out. So I was a little worried, but I knew that once we got to the RV part, I knew I would be fine, because we were already gotten 4 swims in like 2.5 days or whatever it was, or 2 days. So, but, and I'm like, oh, they're only 10,000. It's, and then we get a break. So, but yeah, I mean, it worked out well for me. But like I said, we've done, a lot of much longer swims that I haven't really trained for at all, just relying on my past training, and, kind of like, it's like riding a bike, you never forget.
Man, well, first of all,
I don't recommend that training style though for most people.
Yeah, couch to marathon swimming doesn't really sound like something many people can do. I like 10,000. I heard that like we can gloss over 10K a day. That is 10,000 in pool swimmer terms. And like K's we think about, open water swimming, but a pool swimmer, 10,000, that is Christmas training material. And Dr. John and I were both sprinters. So to think about doing 10,000 a day is bringing up memories that I have, buried deep in my past. For you guys to do that, not only once a day, but did I read that for you to finish it in 25 days, you're doing this twice a day? And was there a day that you also did 3 swims a day?
Yeah, we had 3 days of triples, because we started like the flight part of it. Like we started in Hawaii, then flew to Alaska, then we flew to Reno and did both sides of Lake Tahoe, 2 different routes on the Nevada and California side. So, so the first 3 days when we got in 4 swims because of the travel. And then the one day, John said, when we got the weather in Minnesota that knocked us out. So we had 3 days of.
Uh-oh.
Yep, lost him.
All right, that's at like 23:10. I'll make a little note of it so Luke can maybe cut it out. Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Sorry,
yeah,
guys. Just cut out for a quick second. We'll edit that part out, but we lost you for a minute.
And then we had one day where we ended up doing 4 swims in like 26 hours. And that was right after our flat tire that it took them 13 hours to come change it on the RV, which was really frustrating. But then we basically drove up and swam to like 4 different swims.
I love how nonchalant you guys are. And you had to deal with the boat, and you had to sleep in an RV. It's just like, oh, yeah, so one day we did 4, all knows, the D-swimmer mindset, I think, is just burned in each of your brains. It amazes me.
Yeah, I mean, well, once you start knocking them out, it seems to get a little bit easier. And then to me, open water swimming is much easier than pool swimming. And that's one of the reasons why I don't like training in the pool, just because it's like, you go for long distance swimming to get enough, you have to do a lot of yardage. And for me, just swimming back and forth in a pool it's super difficult, because once you stop, you're like, oh, I think I've gone far enough today. With the open water swimming, you can kind of like, shut down a little bit, like mentally, and kind of like zone out and just keep swimming. And, next thing you know, you're there.
I got to ask about like ways to get through the swim, because Dr. John is notorious for swimming, even the pool workouts, with music on now, because he just cannot.
Brewmaster's mode has begun.
Yeah, like he's channeling his inner millennial with no attention span. So what are you guys just swimming in silence? Like, what, you got songs in your head? Are you chatting, taking food breaks? Give us like, what's it like during each swim? How do you not get bored?
I think, with open water, each swim's different. I mean, that's what I think was fun. And this was the whole idea of the swim, is just to see the whole country through goggles. I mean, if you've been to swim meets, you travel for a meet and you see the inside of the hotel room and the pool. And it didn't matter whether you were in, Paris or Peoria, like it's the same experience. And to be out there and like swimming through the country and seeing like everything from Yale Lake, which had, beautiful tree lined places, and swimming towards a snow-capped volcano, to, Michigan, where you're seeing these multi-million-dollar mansions, with every breath on one side, to, kind of some of the desolate, places in Kansas or Nebraska. I mean, it was all beautiful in their own way. So I think part of it was just, unwinding from the train, getting out there and swimming through the country and really appreciating our surroundings. And yeah, I mean, you got that soundtrack in on your head. Or for me, I was like really thinking back through each one of the swims, kind of replaying them, for like 5 minutes each, to kind of, a couple ways just to, kind of remember what each swim was like. And so they didn't get lost in some big blur. And also to kind of realize that no matter how challenging it is right now in this swim, in this moment, tomorrow, 2 days from now, this will just be a scene I replay for 5 minutes in my head on the next swim. Time passes. I'm going to get through this and get to the next one. So that's kind of what was going through my mind when I was swimming.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I'm able to like kind of almost turn off my mind and not really think about a whole lot. Joe tells me there's not a whole lot in there to begin with, but so, or you're thinking about, different stuff, and, but when you get out, you're just like, what was I thinking about again? Like, what was that? So that's for me.
And were you guys mainly using the boat as the navigation and sighting, or how much navigating were you two actually doing in the water?
So the boat's the navigation. So
Yeah, okay.
What they, that's the job of the pilot. We had some really good guys, on the boat, so that we would just essentially follow the boat. I mean, it's one thing to kind of look up and have an idea of where you're going, but your perspective isn't always great from the water. And, as far as marathon swimming, kind of the mantra is just follow the boat, man. Just follow,
Yeah. That's,
they only got us lost once. So, I mean, they did pretty well.
All right, 10-mile detour. These guys will be all right.
Yeah,
Not a big deal. Throw them a gel, they'll make it.
Yeah, the 6 mile swim turned into almost 9, but that's all right. We got through it.
All right, I want to talk about gear choices, because I love the goggles that I wear in the pool, but growing up wearing Swedes, and now I wear kind of a version of those, I end up clearing out my goggles a lot. And as I've gotten into open water swimming, I noticed that my gear choices may be a little bit different when I'm going to do extended long swims. So I'm just curious, like, you've not only trained for it, well, I guess Joe trained for it, John, but having finished this, like, what gear choices were your go-tos? What do you have like info for open water swimmers, especially as you're looking to promote open water swimming? What are your kind of must-haves for open water swimming? And was there anything that you're like, no, that didn't work, I'm going to find something else?
So the nice thing about open water swimming is it's a pretty minimalist sport, right? I mean, cap, goggles, suit, that's really all you're allowed to to have. All these swims, no wetsuit, no thermal cap, nothing to provide buoyancy or warmth. It's very minimalist. So, I mean, for us, it was just, we go with a jammer style suit just because there's less sun exposure. A cap that sometimes we were taking off when the water got up over 90 degrees in parts of the South. And the goggles, we use mostly the Speedo Hydrospec goggles that are soft enough. We found that like a new pair doesn't really fog. So typically for our long marathon swims, we'll just use a new pair every time, and then they become training goggles after that. We weren't using 50 pairs of goggles each on this. So we switch them out over, after 4 or 5 swims. But that's, what else, John? We don't use a whole lot. You can talk about the feeds maybe too.
Yeah. So for as far as like the goggles, we went with the Speedo, I think Hydrospec or something. I can't remember what they're called, but they're kind of like softer and wider. So it's because when you're wearing your goggles and you're not taking them off some of our swims that we've done, have been, 18, 20 hours. So because Swedish goggles, your eyes would be bugging out by the end. That growing up, that's what I, wore, swimming. But it's also wearing your goggles loose enough so they don't, or tight enough so that the water doesn't get in, but loose enough so by the end, by a couple hours in, they're not hurting. It is kind of that. And we found, like just said, the Speedo Hydrospecs, and then again, the fogging up issue is for long, our new long swims, we'll use brand new pairs of goggles because the factory, anti-fog is so much better than your aftermarket or your whatever, because there's nothing worse than having to keep clearing your goggles or not being able to see the boat when you're doing an open water swim. So, it's to me on a long swim, it's $12 or whatever it is, well spent to not have that frustration for hours on end.
Yeah. What about suntan lotion and feeds? You just spent a lot of time in the sun and had to eat.
So suntan lotion, we looked at, we tried to do most of our swims like before the sun exposure, a morning swim and a later afternoon swim when the sun exposure wasn't so, or the UV index wasn't so high. And there we would just use regular sunscreen, to get you through that like in the afternoon one, regular sunscreen to get you through that, hour and a half until like the UV index was super low. When we were doing swims, when the UV index was high or like middle of the day swims, we were using Desitin extra maximum strength diaper cream because it's about 40% zinc and it does not come off. So again, like we've done super long swims, 18, 20 hours, like that it'll still be on pretty much how you put it on when you first started. It's not very fun. That part's not very fun because it's difficult to get off. You have to use a lot of baby oil to get the diaper cream, diaper cream off, and it doesn't smell as appealing as you'd like.
Like, no wonder the team could only be with you 7 days at a time. Please.
That's probably the worst part of it. It's like the worst. The only thing worse than putting this crap all over you is trying to take it off, and the only thing worse than that is like a bad sunburn and skin cancer. So you got to pick your poison. And the last thing you want bouncing down the road in the RV is a sunburn. So we were taking really strong precautions there.
All right. So what about what were you guys eating though? I got to know. Gels. What do you do?
So during the swims, we'd either have the Clip Shot gels, or and then we had water bottles with Carbo Pro, and which is the
supplement.
Basically supplements, and then mixed with some Gatorade. So each of those bottles that we would have or each stop we would have, it would probably be like 300 calories or so, 300 to 400 calories. And then we usually on a long swim, we usually feed like every 30 to 40 minutes, but for these ones, we were just once an hour. So we'd basically just stop for 2.
So we do the carbo, we do the drink and then a gel if we wanted it. And then, just try to eat as much real food as we could before and after the swims. A lot of, in the RV, it was a lot of pasta, a lot of chicken and rice. We were cooking a lot of food there. So it was, just trying to get the calories in because we were definitely getting the calories out. I lost 12 pounds. John lost 15 on the trip. So that was a bonus.
How much of that was beard? If there was one of the locations that you swam in that you could go back to and that be your daily swimming, training spot, which one would you choose?
I would choose Yale Lake in Washington. I think Joe had talked about it a little bit earlier. So it was a beautiful reservoir. The water was like crystal clear. The water temperature for the summer was nice. Huge trees along the side, and then we were swimming towards Mount St. Helen, like snow-capped mountain in the distance, which was I thought was fabulous. So
yeah, I'd agree. I mean, that was our 6th swim overall, and the kind of the one we measured every swim against. That was good, and it none of them quite measured up. There's definitely a lot of great swims we did, but that one was early and that one was great. And man, to be able to swim there every day would be unreal. It was only about 60 miles from Portland. It was, I kind of just picked it off Google Earth because it was close to where we were in Portland to hit it and then get on the road to go to Idaho. And it was a gem.
As a physical therapist, I got to ask about, injuries and recovery and things like that. How obviously you guys have a long history of doing marathon swims and training under your belt, obviously leading up to us, different training approaches and things like that. But how are the shoulders and everything feeling during all the races and as far as recovery between races?
So pretty much after the first one, I started getting, sore, and it never really went away. It never got really like much worse, but it was always kind of like a dull soreness, like pretty much all the way across. And then the interesting thing is, most of our open water swims that we do, you'll get a lot of soreness, but then usually within 48 hours of finishing, it's pretty much gone. And this was really no different on that. Thankfully, like there was nothing, like nothing out of the ordinary, like no strains or anything like that. So that was good on my part. I was excited about that.
I mean, for me, I think, you just got sore after the first week or so is that cumulative effect of all these 10Ks added up. I had some little bit of problem with my left elbow, just some mild tendonitis there. But overall, by the last week, for me, I feel like I was getting stronger. Was feeling better that last week than I did, after the first week.
So last year I followed the Iron Cowboy, James Lawrence, and his 101 iron distance triathlons in a row. There's not many people who have done these epic many days in a row sort of endurance events. Were there any other people who embarked on something similar that were inspirations to you? Did you kind of have advice or consult with anyone like that in preparation for this?
No, I mean, for me, this was an extension of the swims we'd done before. I mean, I used to race triathlon, did Ironman, right out of high school and college even, and cycled quite a bit, so to me, the idea, this was replicating like a Grand Tour, like the Tour de France, same kind of distance and time. We had, I was aware of the Iron Cowboy, it's amazing the, kind of physical stress that he could withstand and get through all that. But this was really, I think, our own thing as far as wanting to put together an amazing adventure and just knowing that we could pull it off and do what we love to do and just kind of hit each swim and take each day as it comes.
I think we should have mentioned this at the beginning, but you set a goal of raising $10,000 and through USA Swimming Foundation, it looks like today the latest, you're achieved that goal and beyond it. Can you talk a little bit about just the inspiration for the purpose and the cause behind what's inspired you guys to take on this challenge?
Yeah, I think, we just definitely wanted this to be about something bigger than ourselves. We realized that how much help we were getting from crew and, other support as we go through this. So we really wanted to benefit someone. I mean, the USA Swimming Foundation just seemed like the natural fit. I mean, we've both been part of USA Swimming our whole lives. I mean, I swam through high school and college, started a swim team out of college, been at that 20 years now. So we've done swim-a-thons with the team, but just really impressed with that USA Swimming Foundation mission of saving lives and building champions. Dovetails nicely with what we're doing. We work with some groups in Arizona with water safety and drowning prevention. That's what kind of kept us in the game with open water swimming. Is this coming year will be our 17th year of putting together a swim for kids that's from Alcatraz to San Francisco, and then the next day we swim across the Golden Gate Bridge. So that's we had 100 doing it last year. We were full last year. But we have people mostly from our club team, Swim Neptune, but also from across Arizona, across the country, of people jumping in that swim with us. And, we train the kids for it. It's 1.5 miles, San Francisco. And then the next day we go out on boat, swim across the Golden Gate Bridge. And that one's a little shorter, about 1.2 miles, but it's amazing. And each year we raise money for drowning prevention, water safety programs, mostly focused in Arizona. But with this, it was like going to be a nationwide effort. So what better, partner than the USA Swimming Foundation that does this amazing stuff from coast to coast.
Wow, incredible. What's having completed this? What's next? Are you settling back into, focusing on the San Francisco open water swims, or what? Is something like this in the future? Are you going to do 100 next time?
Every country.
Yeah, we have some some of our longer open water swims coming up. We have around New York next month. This one we're going clockwise instead of counterclockwise.
Around Manhattan. That's
around Manhattan. Yeah, so the counterclockwise is you get better currents when we're going the other way. And then we're doing a marathon swim in DC in the Potomac.
It's about 20 miles from Chain Bridge to Mount Vernon. So we're doing that DC marathon swim. And then this winter, we take this whole idea of extreme swimming kind of to a extent. Maybe this is a conversation for a different day, but we're also involved with ice swimming. So I've swum the ice mile before, which is a mile under 40 degrees, no wetsuit, just standard swimming. And I'm helping put the team together to go to the World Ice Swimming Championships in January. So if you've ever been at a Masters meet, it's not the ice mile. It's like your typical swimming events, 50 free, 100 free, 100 IM, 50 fly. But if you've ever been at a Masters meet and thought this would be a lot better if the water was 45 degrees colder, do I have an opportunity for you? We're going to Worlds in France in January for the International Ice Swimming Association World Championship. So
Brian's your man. He loves cold water. I can tell you that. He loves cold water.
I was going to say you guys are sprinters, so this might fit right in for you.
Nothing would motivate me more to get out of 40-degree water than to just make the past. Drive a hard bargain. I don't know how I can turn that down.
I mean, who doesn't want to go to the Alps in France? Sounds like fun to me.
No better way to prove to people that you're crazy, or rather just that you're really tough. I think it's so fun to talk to people who live a life taking on really tough challenges. So I really personally just appreciate, what you guys have taken on and what that does for, me personally, but also other people who, think about maybe one day I could, and they just need that little nudge to get over the edge. And here you guys are, brothers, having gone through, a lot of life experiences together, but one that might drive a lot of people apart. And yet here you've emerged with an inspiring story for, all the rest of us in the swimming community, or those who haven't even taken up swimming before and go, well, you know what, I can do it. So well done, and thanks so much to you for the inspiration.
Yeah, well, thank you for having us.
Yeah, of course. So just give us, where can people follow you, or is the Swim Brothers accounts continuing in your future endeavors, or where can people keep up?
Yeah, they can keep up with us at Swim Brothers USA on Instagram and Facebook. We are we're building a website, swimbrothers.com. It's pretty basic right now, but we're trying to flesh that out a little bit more to just kind of be a resource for open water too. We want to kind of, like I said, with this, we want to put all our data out there, so people want to do these swims, they can replicate them, and we've got some big plans for the future, and hopefully chronicle all this coming forward. It's definitely not going to be this same thing again, because the running joke was like, well, next year we'll know to do this or to do that, when it was took way too long and cost way too much money to like do it again. But I definitely want to do something like that that's different, something that's just as much fun and just as adventurous, but some different venues and some different ways of looking at swimming. But anytime you can kind of just set a goal in any area of your life and then kind of focus on it single-mindedly and make progress towards it, and then just love it when a plan comes together and everything works out to give us a great experience and something to share with the broader community.
Love that. Thanks so much, John and Joe. Appreciate the inspiration and for the time today. And hey, we'll look forward to seeing you in a few weeks in Arkansas at the Oz Mile Swim. So
we'll see if we can make it there.
Sounds good.
Cheers. Later, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with us. If you're enjoying Social Kick, tell your friends about it. And be sure to tell us what you liked by leaving a comment, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on Instagram. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Social Kick, and you can find all of our content on our website,